So CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077 comes out in a few days, and like most of the world, I have at least a passing interest in the game. While I don't think it'll be the second coming of Christ in a digital form like a lot of folks seem to, I think it will probably go the same route as many of those games. It'll come out to mostly positive reviews, be well received, mine for content, and win a few awards. And I'm sure with some good post-launch support like they did for The Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red will be able to extend the game's lifespan for years to come. I've been passively interested in Cyberpunk since I heard of it, sometime in 2015. As a fan of the Cyberpunk genre and a fan of video games, I was the game's natural audience. However, somehow the game seemed to have picked up every other audience on the planet too and pulled them along for the ride, while never fully grabbing me. Hell, I only decided I was actually going to get the game a few weeks before its launch. And now with its release date fast approaching, I probably should have picked some earlier time to actually record all of this and put it into words, but I'm a little bit concerned about Cyberpunk 2077. While it may be the current most trending item, Cyberpunk 2077 isn't in itself the origin of the genre. The cyberpunk genre sprung out of the new wave science fiction movement of the early 1960s and 70s, primarily appearing in Britain's New World magazine. Its editor, Michael Moorcock, began to push for stories which present a world where society coped with a constant upheaval of new technology and culture, generally with dystopian outcomes. And the concept of cyberpunk has spread to all forms of media, but what is probably most attributed to its mainstream success are the works of William Gibson with Johnny Mnemonic and Neuromancer, and Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was then adapted by Ridley Scott into Blade Runner. And for many, I feel like that's where the understanding of the genre's origin ends, with its influences being more well known. It creates an interesting problem where people tend to absorb the thing influenced by cyberpunk culture more than the genre itself. It's not exactly surprising though. The Matrix is far more accessible than Neuromancer, and by the time of the mid-90s, the genre itself had kind of festered and died out. But its influences continued into becoming household names, spawning products like Akira, The Matrix, and Cyberpunk. The role-playing game. No, the tabletop game. Yeah, that's better. Created by Mike Pondsmith in 1988, the game was an attempt to replicate the grit of the literature that inspired it, and ironically, for all my harping on, wasn't actually inspired by Neuromancer. It's had a few different versions as time's gone on, each gradually taking us further into the future as the real world rapidly catches up with the setting of the tabletop. This is where CD Projekt Red found their influence for 2077, so much so the newest version of the game, Cyberpunk Red, serves as a prequel to 2077, and Mike Pondsmith has been working as consultant on the game since 2012. So again, I should be incredibly excited for this game, and yet I'm apprehensive because... Well, let's take a step back. While 2077 has had a long development history, the game industry and the world at large has changed a lot in the past 7 years since its initial announcement. Well, thanks to technological advances, we're a lot more connected and accessible to the outside world, but we're also a lot more divided. Political polarization has grown a lot in the past 10 years, and as a concept this takes two forms, the state and the process. Polarization as the state refers to the opposition of opinions on an issue, and the process is how much that opposition increases over time. There's quite a lot of different reasons as to why polarization occurs, but it often comes with there being a limited amount of options presented, because everyone will have an opinion and everyone will fall on the scale somewhere, and some of these issues can be very divisive. This is what people mean when they say the world has become more political, because it hasn't. It would be more accurate to say, more people are talking about politics. So if you're a company wishing to release a product to the biggest audience possible, you don't want to say anything that might annoy one side of the consumer base. So it seems the easiest way to avoid this is to do a press release in order to reassure people. Find an outlet and say, our product is not trying to make any political statements, slap yourself in the centre of the scale and call it a day. But this is disingenuous for a few reasons. Everything is political, and everything has something to say. If you don't agree, I ask you to take a video game you've played over the last couple of years that has a strong narrative-focused storyline. Maybe it's a sci-fi shooter starring a space marine, or an open-world game set in a parody of America, a post-apocalyptic hellscape with various factions vying for control, an adaptation of a popular franchise, it doesn't matter. Every single one of these games will have been influenced, and therefore be saying something about the world we live in. Because if a game has something to say, it has to be saying something. So let's hop back to Cyberpunk 2077, which of course has tried to disassociate itself from politics, with its lead quest designer saying,
"For me, the most important thing is that our game is a closed work, and it's not a political statement, a political thesis."
Which is a little bit concerning when you're building a game based on a genre that is defined by its political influences. I mean, it's literally called cyberpunk, an ethos which is primarily made up of beliefs such as non-conformity, anti-authority, and anti-corporate. And even the game's creator, Mike Pondsmith, agrees with me, so I win. So thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. I could end the video here, and I probably should. The fact that CD Projekt Red seems to be desperately trying to appeal to the people who cry woke whenever they see anything vaguely political in their games isn't what concerns me. I mean, the game is always going to have an uphill battle when arguing politics. It's a made-for-profit piece of technology made by a company worth billions with accusations of overworking their staff in order to create a product that is supposed to be inherently critical of those things. That is a reason to be concerned, but it's not my one. No, my reason is I'm non-binary. A critical part of the more modern understanding of cyberpunk is the transhuman aspect, the idea of modifying and enhancing your body with technology in order to improve the human condition. Cybernetic eyes instead of glasses, robotic legs, that sort of thing. One route of transhumanism is the idea of our physical bodies being merely forms we take, like an avatar in a video game or a computer case containing software. It's the way we are physically present in the world, the flesh prison that contains our being. And for some, there is no distinction between physical form and self, and for others there are quite a lot. The ability to physically change part of yourself that you dislike, or that causes you suffering, is a desire a lot of people have, and as technology advances, those options become more available to people. And while I think everyone can think of the medical benefits of such a practice, unless you're CD Projekt Red apparently, there's another community of people that love that idea too. It's been argued by some that the transgender and transhuman experiences are inherently linked. If we take the approach that our physical bodies are merely forms to be modified as we see fit, then gender should also not be a limit. In the article Mind is Deeper Than Matter, CEO and transhumanist Martin Rothblatt said that
freedom of gender is therefore the gateway to a freedom of form and to an explosion of human potential.
So it's more than a little concerning when 2077 has not one but two controversies relating to its portrayal of transgender people. The first, a fairly off-colour tweet that is evidence in itself, and if you need me to explain why the assuming gender joke is a red flag for trans representation, you probably have a bit more reading to do on trans issues. The second was the poster. You've probably all seen it by now. An in-game poster was the site of controversy due to its sexual nature and its tagline of "Mix It Up," which led many trans people to believe that they were the butt of the joke. The defense of this is that we were supposed to feel that way, but about the in-game company.
This model is used, the beautiful body is used for corporate reasons. They're displayed there as a thing, and that's the terrible part of it.
Which is a fair response. However, when you're condemning a fictional company for using and exploiting a transgender person when advertising their products, the best place to do that probably isn't when you're advertising your products.
While a cutting critique of queer commodification might have been part of the idea's nucleus, the outcome is commodification itself, objectifying trans people as creatures of deviance, defined by their genitals and suitable only for sexualization or rejection.
And of course it doesn't stop there. The character would go on to be cosplayed by a cisgender cosplayer on behalf of CD Projekt Red, who, of course, claimed her costumes were beyond politics. A subsidiary of CD Projekt Red has received backlash for hijacking of a trans-inclusive hashtag in order to promote itself. The official Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter engages with Tesla's Elon Musk, a massive tech billionaire who is basically a cyberpunk villain in human form. It's like every time I look up this game, it's nothing but a series of red flags. I mean, to say that Cyberpunk doesn't understand its genre would be an understatement. If anything, it seems like it's trying to be the antithesis of it. Will Cyberpunk 2077 be a good video game? Sure. Will it be a good cyberpunk game? Well, that remains to be seen. Hey everyone, if you made it this far in the video, I just wanted to say thanks for watching, and I'd also like to thank I4Scotland, Sin3X, Chorus Loren, and Joe Sabers for providing their voices in this video. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, and you can also follow me on social media and support me on Patreon. The links for everything, including a bibliography of all my sources, are in the description below. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.